When it comes to Marvel Studios pulling in teams and aspects from the comics, there is no shortage of standouts that people want to see in live action. And currently, multiple projects are in development that hint towards the possibility of a darker side of Marvel. Which brings us to today's big report that the Midnight Suns will be forming, including some interesting characters. So a recent report by the Hashtag Show goes into some details on what we can expect in the future of the MCU, and they specifically talk about the Midnight Suns. Now, the Midnight Suns in the comics have had various iterations. Some of them include the likes of Blade, or Morbius, or Ghost Rider, for example, just to name a few, which obviously are all things in live action that we've seen recently or are in development. So it's one of these things where it would make sense that Marvel Studios might be able to pull off a Midnight Suns somewhere down the road. Now, the Hashtag Show goes into the fact that they've heard that this is already happening, and some of the characters that they report on are Doctor Strange, Moon Knight, Blade, Hannibal King, Ghost Rider, Scarlet Witch, and Hellstrom. Now, of course, that last one, Hellstrom, had a first and only season on Hulu that I'm positive only about 4 people watched, so it's probably a reboot of that character, much like Ghost Rider, who is reportedly going to be Johnny Blaze, and not the one we already had, which was the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. version, aka Robbie Reyes. Now, Hannibal King makes sense because he has a connection to Daredevil and some of the more fantastical / darker side. There's, of course, other just characters that make sense. Moon Knight and Blade, they're already coming to the MCU, so that makes sense. So this is one of those reports that I believe that it's easy to believe or come up with this type of scenario, because why wouldn't they do it? They already got all the pieces falling into place. My only big thing here with this one is it would take years upon years to build this up, and according to that report, it said somewhere in phase 4. Maybe you can establish that idea and the concept of it, but I don't think you pull that off just yet. There's a lot of things that need introductions, like, for example, the Devil and Mephisto, and the concept of Ghost Rider and all these darker elements, and you have to get Blade out there and you got to get Moon Knight out there. So years from now I could see this happening, but realistically happening in the next 2.5 years, 3 years, probably not, because unless they're going to drop them all into Multiverse of Madness and establish that concept that Doctor Strange gets that idea, then that might work. But otherwise, I think it's still quite a bit away, and I would like it if they could also work in some of those Sony characters, but hey, I guess we'll see what happens with that.